All right. That was cool.
So cool.
I will describe that view, y'all. Welcome to 2022.
Whoop, whoop.
What about that? Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to do that. The audio people are probably like listening to this like, what is he talking about? Why is this herky jerky in the beginning? Because I just wanted to start off the YouTube video of Through a Therapist's Eyes episode this week with a little ode to Ben Roethlisberger. So if you're only listening to the audio part of this on the podcast, Spotify, Apple iTunes, we're everywhere now. So, well, almost everywhere. I just showed a copy or a look of on the YouTube video of the back of my shirt, which is Ben Roethlisberger. And there's a reason for that. So let me start out with, this is almost kind of current event is what this relates to. So I had an amazing experience, and there's a clinical point to this. So I'm sure a lot of our folks are not really aware of football or pay much attention to it that listen across the world in our country and stuff. So bear with me with the football components of this, but I thought it would be a cool way to start our show with a current event, and it has a clinical point, like I said, kind of towards the end of it. So here we go. Monday Night Football was amazing. And it was amazing because of the many times that I've told my wife, for instance, it's not the wins and losses, it's not the sport and the competition and all. It's the stories behind the sporting event. It's the characters, the events, the experiences that go on. And so, as y'all know, I am a Pittsburgh Steeler fan at heart. Always have been. And I really have had the experience of watching this guy, Ben Roethlisberger, play for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 18 years. Kasie, that is 18 years is the longest stay with any franchise of any player in the NFL. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Furthermore, in that time span, they've only played 2 games that have not had playoff implications. 2 games through 18 seasons where, the playoffs hadn't been on the line. And now, again, in sports, that's just unheard of. Those are crazy statistics.
Yeah.
And so that is just to demonstrate what Ben has meant to Pittsburgh Steeler fans and Pittsburgh Steeler franchise and the whole culture that goes along with that. So simply just as a fan right now, for just a moment, if you will humor me, I will never maybe meet Ben Roethlisberger. I probably, whatever. I'm just a fan. I'm nobody. But I do have a platform that I've built on Through a Therapist's Eyes. And I decided after that game that I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Mr. Ben Roethlisberger for what you have done and what you have meant, not in wins and losses, not the Super Bowls, not the All-Pros and the Canton Hall of Fame that's probably going to come, but for what you have put out to the community and what it has meant. And I don't imagine he has no idea what that really actually is. I mean, one of my best friends, for instance, is my best friend. We all know him from episode 3, Aaron Clark. We bonded through the culture of Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So what happened on Monday night was just amazing. I thought it was a cool current event. Again, there's a clinical point to this, so bear with me a little bit longer. He played his last game as a Pittsburgh Steeler in the home field of Heinz Field. And, he wasn't even going to make it about him and was just going to play the game and just wait till the end of the season to announce things. Now, let me back up. He's been a little bit of a lightning rod in the mental health way as well. There were charges against him with sexual improprieties early in his career. He was a young guy. He really had a lot of struggles. I mean, he was young, dumb, immature with a crap ton of money going out to bars and clubs and acting like an idiot. So much so, I can say that, I'm sorry, as a fan. He acted like an idiot. So much so that I personally was like, okay, look, you're acting out. You're stupid. I'm not even rooting for you. Love my Steelers, but I'm not down with you. You have to be 3 years straight, clean, if you will, from not substance abuse issues, but from just nonsense. And he accomplished that. So I would be a fan again of Ben Roethlisberger. But I pledged never to even call him a clock. You know, they call him Big Ben.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I refused to do that for his entire career up until about 2 days before the Monday Night Football, because they were talking about reflecting his career and how he's grown, how he's matured, how he's come around, how he's come along, what he's done in his mental health, I suspect. And so they asked, what's one word that would describe how Ben played? And that was big. And I was like, okay, wow, wait a minute. Big personality, yeah, but big heart. The guy's been injured over and over and over again. He played this year without an offensive line, getting crushed and killed. He played big. And so I now, and I'm so glad that I can call him Big Ben, but for a very different reason, because of what his change process was through that whole time, and watching his story closely as much as I can as just a fan. So Monday night ended with this amazing display of emotion. Go figure. The Through a Therapist's Eyes is going to key in on all of the emotional dynamics going on, right? This guy ended the game, and it was like 20 minutes after the game. He's still just like walking around Heinz Field, literally like not knowing what to do, just weeping and crying. And he sat down on a bench where previous year Marquise Pouncey, his close buddy, retired in a terrible game of being kicked out of the playoffs. And he just sat there, head down, like soaking in the moment. And he talked about how he wanted to just take some time and soak in the moment and be present with what he was experiencing. And I thought it was a great display of mental health. And finally, his wife and kids came onto the field, held hands, hugged, did that whole thing. And you had this picturesque movie version of, you know, Ben Roethlisberger with the sign on his back, you know, holding hands with his family, his kids, his wife, walking, finally leaving the Dankum field, you know, walking down the tunnel. I was so emotionally charged that evening. That's why I decided to do this. And the mental health component here, the endearing part is, look, again, if you don't know football, we have carried an attitude of you have to be strong. You have to be, you know, ice in your veins, non-emotional, powerful on the field, and command and control of everything around you. And it's just garbage. It's not true. So feel how you feel about Ben Roethlisberger or the Pittsburgh Steelers. That doesn't matter. What really matters is what is displayed by being genuine and allowing your emotion to be seen by others. I have given a couple of current events about the NFL making some strides to accomplish that. There was an article that I'm not going to do, but they talked about mental health. I mean, people are taking mental health non-football injury-related absences from their team for this very reason. We have a guy I documented in current events that, you know, his cousin or his dad died or something in a car wreck, and he hadn't played all year, and that's great. So can we follow that lead and allow people to see our emotion? Can we follow that lead and find a way to be genuine in our experiences with other people and have a back and forth, an open-ended component to us with people that we are in relationship with? I hope the answer to that is yes. You know, you go as far away from a professional locker room to get role models. Don't get me wrong. I've heard that said before, and I totally agree. But we can take things like that and I think learn from it. So it was a crazy experience. Kasie, what do you
so I mean, one, as a avid fan of football in general, but also just sports teams in general, like I was really attuned with you in that moment, just thinking through how much you love the Pittsburgh Steelers and what that moment meant for you as an avid fan. I'll never forget when, you know, Dean Smith retired as the head basketball coach for the UNC Tar Heels. Yeah. Like, I'll never forget that. Just like, I'll never forget the name of the guy that made the free throw when Chris Webber called a timeout in the Michigan National Championship game in 1993. Like,
you have these moments, right?
It's these monumental things that kind of consume us and we really connect to on a different level. And I think that that's really important. And something that I do love about the Steelers Nation and Mike Tomlin and that whole generation of athletes that have come through there is that there's an uncanny presence of teamwork. They have never once, in my opinion, set out to buy a championship, but they made an investment in Ben Roethlisberger. And so I think that was...
That's true. It's really true.
That's an investment that paid off because for 15 seasons, they haven't had a losing season.
It's insane.
They've had a couple of 8-8 years, but not one losing season.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. So the pandemic has begun to bring my dressing attire, even in my work, down a little bit. So this is like what I would wear at home. So this is just me. And so again, thank you, Ben Roethlisberger, for what you've done. And in honor of him, I've got the shirt on. I'm gonna do the show with my hat. I know it's an ugly looking hat.
Oh my god!
Heck yeah, man! I love it.
This is
it, man.
That's that fan gear that you can't replace. You can never replace the hat.
No, I will have this hat for many
years.
It
has been worked with you
for a while.
Through a lot.
Yes, it has.
Apparently, as evidenced by the dirt stains and sweat rings around it.
Awesome, man. Though
I love.
Sorry for the appearance if it bothers you, but it's what's going to be today. So welcome to, by the way, Through a Therapist's Eyes. Right.
Yeah.
This is the podcast where you get personal insights directly from a therapist. In this month, we have 2 therapists in your car or in your home. Therapists have that book still out, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. See the world through the lens of a therapist, but be aware it's not delivery therapy services in any way. Contact us at contact@throughatherapist'seyes.com. So this is the human emotional experience, and I can't tell you how excited I am for 2022 to figure this thing out together with you guys. As a matter of fact, this is a really good time to connect up with us. Okay, mm-hmm. We have the website. I would really say go to throughatherapist'seyes.com and get on the email link because we've got some new things that we've developed. We ended up 2021 with doing these Facebook Lives, with adding some video, doing the YouTube thing. And so we're proving that we are actually doing some new things and some developing things. And you have landed on a platform that I'm super excited about. I got a lot of energy to engage with. And I promise you, I will make this pledge that 2022, we really are going to do additional new things and begin to grow this thing. And I'm just so appreciative of you being with us. You have made us want to continue doing this show throughout the world. We've got downloads, and you're super, super valuable to what we do. So help us to spread the stigmas and stereotypes being blown up about mental health and substance abuse and disseminating information. That's our goal. So get on the email list through therapist'seyes.com. Definitely the 5 stars and the likes and comments on the web pages and stuff too. That helps out. Out a lot. So we are doing what? We got New Year's resolutions. This is Kasie's month, right? She's back with us.
I'm back. Guess who's back?
Yeah.
Back again.
What is the phrase I was supposed to read? Kasie is the co-host with the most.
Thank you. Yes, I even put a smiley face emoji beside of that for those who can't see the show notes.
Yeah.
To let you know that was a point of emphasis.
So we have we're going to keep that in 2022. We've got arranging co-host once a month. We switch off, so we've got Kasie back, and I guess I don't know. Are we really talking about New Year's resolutions, or I feel like it's a different culture that we're going to go at with this?
Yeah. With me, nothing is as it seems, right?
Like, New Year, new me. Really? That's the title.
And the way I want to emphasize that is, really? Does there need to be a new you?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Good.
So, yeah, I mean, it tees itself up, right, for show content for the first show of the new year to talk through this concept of resolutions. But I can guarantee you that this is not about, some kind of rote show about making a resolution and sticking to it. This is...
because I can't stand resolutions. Can I say that off the get-go?
Yeah, say it.
I don't like them.
Good. Great.
Don't like them.
All right. Without looking at your paper, though, pop quiz. What do you think are the top 5 New Year's resolutions across all the lists that people compile?
I'll be curious what you found with that. But to me, right, it's the things we don't like about ourselves.
Right. So, I mean, this is a for real question. Try to name one of the top 5 that people often say.
Easy. Weight.
Yeah, weight loss is usually
finances.
Number 1. Finances is on there.
I would imagine. I don't think it would be on there, but I think that people and the relationships, with their marriage being primary, that would be. Oh, is that one of the 5?
Right, like living life to the fullest with my partner. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's one
Yeah.
of the 5. I
Yeah.
wouldn't thought that to be on the one of the 5, but well, dang, I'm like 3 for 3. I got to get the
Yeah.
other 2. What's the other 2? Let me think.
It's like Family Feud.
Finances, we got yeah, right. Finances, weight, personal marriage.
Yeah.
What else? Well, exercise.
Yep.
But that's
4.
okay,
Gosh,
that's
you are
4.
doing really well.
But that has to do with weight.
Yeah, the last one was weird, but a lot of people apparently use this.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my 4 for 4 status. I'm gonna keep my perfection.
I love that.
Not offer another.
Getting organized.
Getting organized. Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
like getting my life together
Right,
kind of
right,
thing and
right.
getting
Get my crap
organized.
together.
Yeah. So really good job. I'm actually really, really impressed that you literally got 4 out of the 5, and the 5th one was kind of an outlier and kind of a catch-all of getting my life together. But yeah, so
every squirrel gets a nut.
Hey,
But I got 4.
the sun doesn't shine on the same dog's ass every day, though.
Hey.
Like,
It's all about the Steeler gear,
yeah, I
man.
hear you,
This-
Steeler
it
Nation.
plays. It,
you
it
need your
plays a
terrible
winning
towel.
attitude.
Where's your terrible towel?
I got one. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
you
should have
be on
brought it.
display. Where was it?
I should have, dude. I know I could have gone overboard, man. I would
Okay.
have had my Steeler helmet here, my towel, kind of lift back. I might have gotten the banner replaced up here. I mean, I could have gone crazy.
You could have, but
I didn't want to. I think I
Thank
went
you.
over the board already.
yeah. And so, you know how I like to incorporate definitions and stuff too whenever
what we do.
do the podcast. And so I do want to kind of talk through the concept of resolution and where it came from and things like that. And so I think we get hung up. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Let's go a little broader with that though, real quick. Because I think you got something about the Babylonians coming up, which is really I'm anxious to hear what on earth this comes from. But just off the get-go here, I feel like, people will tune in and they've already got the flavor that this isn't going to be a normal resolutions kind of conversations. Because I feel like from a mental health perspective, it's really different than what people get portrayed in New Year's Eve and, the top 5 this and that and all the things that you are hopeful for. And I'm really kind of feeling like, what do resolutions mean to you clinically?
Yeah.
To me, they're kind of things that clue me in to like, what are people really unsettled with? What are the things that we need to kind of be dialed into in this person's life, kind of, so to speak? And that's why I kind of don't look at making resolutions. I look at making self-improvement all through the year. I know that's cliche-ish, but I really think of it that way. What does it mean to you with clients and resolutions that they're kind of dealing with and trying to reconcile with?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into exactly what I was getting ready to say, which was that I think we get stuck on the definition of resolution with the term to resolve, right? Like the quintessential definition of a New Year's resolution is either to pick up a habit that we want to keep or get rid of a habit that we don't want anymore.
Okay.
We want resolve, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you that to me, the best part of like a resolution is the key word, which is a resolute, right? Which is an adjective. And so if we are going to do something with resolution, it's really less about adding to and taking away from and more about living with some type of growth and purpose in mind. So what we're doing is purposeful. And that's where we want to get to today.
Dude, I pepper that all through my book, honestly.
Yeah.
The purposeful actions that you take to manage mental health. I mean, with a talk, a professional speech that I enjoy giving is the methodical management of mental health. It's like you've got to have purpose in what it is that you're trying to do with mental health and substance abuse.
Yeah, and it's about adopting a growth mindset and remembering that growth is not always overwhelming growth. It can be that 1 degree at a time, that 1 centimeter at a time.
In fact, isn't that where more stable change is made?
Absolutely.
I mean, major moments in our lives can make major change. Don't get me wrong. I know that we hurt the most when we grow the most, or we grow the most when we hurt the most. But I mean, yeah, man, that's not what happens in a therapy room, is it?
No.
I mean, it's incremental moments and little steps. I mean, 1 step at a time. People talk about, just take a baby step. It's another big cliche, but it's really true.
Yeah, and so I think all of that is going to be incorporated and peppered throughout the talk today. So that's what I'm most excited about, is to really focus on how do I connect to purpose and how do I see that purpose lived out in my life this year and years to come? Because I don't want it to be just for a year, And I think that's where we get caught up too. It's like, oh, in 2022, I'm going to lose weight. Okay, but do we have a maintenance plan? Do we have like a nutritional plan? Or is this, I'm 10 pounds and I'm done and I gain and lose the same 10 pounds every single year?
Yeah. People, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me when you're doing a resolution and you might have some initial success. The emotional and the psychological, the mental health, the substance abuse, if you will, barriers that just boom, come roaring back and smack you at some point if you're not purposefully dealing with that.
Yeah.
You can't make a change without managing your mental health differently. Can I make that bold statement?
Absolutely,
Right.
because what you can't control is everyone else.
I need to write that one down. You can't make a change without managing your mental health status.
Right.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. That was pretty solid.
This
Yeah.
stuff just comes, I don't know where
But
it
yeah,
comes
so
from.
you can't control the situations that come up, how people respond and react to you, and what they do. And so because of that, when we make bold resolutions or we make things an all or nothing type of
Ooh, big phrase.
thing, when it becomes all or nothing like that, then the likelihood of us sticking to it and maintaining it as a focal point gets further and further away from being 100% complete in our lives. And so I think that's why a growth mindset that has a purpose and connects to meaning is going to be beneficial overall.
Okay, here's the thing, y'all. I'm looking at the camera and the YouTube thing. Y'all got to understand, you can't only tune in to the months when Kasie's here. You have to tune into all the other months. I know these are two clinical brains that are brilliant, and she does an awesome job, but the rest of the months are good too. No, it's awesome. I do. I enjoy you. That's perfect, the way we're setting this up. Listen,
Yeah.
I got to hear about the Babylonians, though, man. What
Yeah.
are we talking about? Where do revolutions. Well, listen to me. Where do resolutions come from? What are we doing? Babylonians? This goes back a ways, eh?
Yeah. So when I was doing research for today, because I do love to research like where this junk even came from, right? Because I don't like to take anything just at face value, right? Like I have to ask myself, like, how do we even get here? You know?
Right.
And so who am I and why am I here? Right? Existential questions. But the ancient Babylonians were really the first ones to have New Year's resolutions according to history. And this is coming just from history.com, the History Channel, right?
Love the History Channel.
Right, yeah.
I do.
So
I love the History Channel.
They had the first recorded celebrations in honor of the new year. But they actually did it in mid-March, which is interesting. But that's the whole like complexity of the calendar thing. The sun,
there's a lot there, yeah.
positioning on the earth. Like we could do a whole show
Right.
on that stuff, right? And
The geeky science brains we have could go off on that.
right. But for the most part, they had seasons of the year based on the crops that were planted, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like what grew and what didn't grow determined what time of the year it was. And so they would crown a new king.
See, my thing is, when did that change? Don't we still grow things?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, well, they would either. So the process would start with either a recrowning of the king that was already in rule,
Okay.
or they would crown a new king, depending on where things were with that. And then they made these promises to the gods to pay their debts, return the objects they had borrowed, and then that's kind of what started all of this was their promises that they would make.
So these are negotiations with the gods.
Right. And then it's been just adapted and adopted over time through a lot of like religious tradition and also like pagan traditions as well. So every sector of the population, basically, if you go back to the roots of the population, the roots of the culture, the roots of the ethnicities across our world, you will find very similar kind of offerings of sorts and
You know why
dedication
I
to
think
change.
that is?
Why?
Honestly, you know what? I'm just listening to you and what my brain is doing. We got some great science and we figured out dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine.
Mm-hmm.
I probably don't even need to tell the audience around the world, the thousands listening, right, that those are neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
We've developed some science. We've developed an understanding. Do you think in 4023 BC, the human emotional experience was that much different? Right? Like, it wasn't. And so human beings, to me, are just what we've always been, a conglomerate of our emotional, mental health, and psychological makeup that operates in groups of people. And there we go through the eons.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and I love that. And that connects to everything that I believe, which is, and you've heard this before from me on the show, but also in clinical practice. And as you say, walking by my office, and things like that, is that our bodies have an implicit design. Our nervous system, whether it's 4000 BC or 2022, is designed to offer us the opportunity to regulate ourselves in different directions. So when we feel anxious, it's on purpose. When we feel low mood and our body tells ourselves to go lie down, it's on purpose. And the hard part of that is that sometimes we don't differentiate between what is dangerous to us and what is not dangerous to us. And that's where we find a lot of our mental health conditions, if you will, is because our biology is being overactive.
If you just push pause and rewind, hit that 30-second rewind button 2, 3, 4 times and listen to that again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth there.
Yeah. And so that's why I want to continue to scream this from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
This is not about what is wrong with you. This is the biological process of your body that just gets put into overdrive and makes you think things that aren't necessarily true. Wow. And that's what we want to talk about when it comes to resolutions and connecting to purpose and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, but your body is designed on purpose. You are who you are meant to be on purpose.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
And it's good.
And it is so good. But it's hard sometimes. We don't want to neglect that everyone has an experience. The human emotional experience is hard.
Yeah.
Life is hard. Situations are hard. If you go back and listen to our toxic positivity episode, which I thought was killer, by the way.
Absolutely.
It was really good. We don't want to negate that situations aren't hard and just leave this situation, say like, love and peace, everybody. It's been such a great year. Let's go make it the best you can. Like that's not what this is about.
A good metaphor for that would be, I'm sorry, I'm going to get hate mail for this, and I hope anybody at NBC or ABC or whatever network that does the the Rockin' New Year's Eve. Did you watch any of the Rockin' New Year's Eve?
Absolutely not.
We didn't either. This year was awful.
Was it?
And here we turned it in for like 4 minutes, and my brother told me about it because he listened to a little bit more of it. It was exactly what you're talking about, right? It was like they only allowed like 1,500 people in New York, something like that, and they had the party and the whole big thing, and the radio and TV personalities were like, oh, we're so celebratory, we're so happy. You could just tell they were just like trying to goose this thing up. It was so fake. It was not genuine. I don't feel like in what was going on with Omicron.
Absolutely. And I think we can't be in denial that there has been a lot of death, destruction, like horrible things that have happened across the face of our planet. It's been a tough couple of years, and so I think it's important to acknowledge that people have had a hard time, and that the culture of COVID has really changed a lot of things. And so where we are this year versus where we were in 2019 may feel completely different. That's okay. But when it comes to getting to a place to where you feel like you are resolute, which means you are connected to a purposeful determination in your life, that is what I want to talk through today, because I think that is important. And if there was any 2 words, sometimes we talk about 1 word, but I'm going to do 2 words today. If there are any 2 words I would like for our audience to take away, number 1 would be authenticity.
Okay.
Being your authentic self. And number 2 would be the word enough. Not because you've had it up to here and you've had enough.
I've had enough of this crap.
But knowing that you are enough.
Am enough.
Exactly. But maybe with less of a question mark at the end. Yeah.
Right.
I am enough.
Exclamation point.
And the reason why you're enough is because you have an implicit design of your biology, and what you have been given is enough to get you through. And I want to connect to that today.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you have enough to get through. You have enough to be
Yeah.
you, and to feel good and grounded and whole in that. Yeah, and that is a lot of what we try to do. In generalized way,
Yeah.
in work with people through therapy. Absolutely.
Absolutely, because when you come into the office, or it's not a magic thing, right? Just like medications, they're not magic pills.
Not a solution.
They're not a solution. It doesn't change your circumstance. It doesn't change your situation. It doesn't change your family. It doesn't change your marriage. It doesn't change your kids.
Helps your biology a little bit.
You know, it can help level out the biology, but the rest of the stuff stays the same, right? So we have to figure this out together in how we can kind of connect to that purposeful determination. So, Chris, I want to ask you, like, does making a resolution, you think, have a positive or negative impact on self-concept?
Well, yeah, I see that, and I think I've gotten to know you well enough that I think I know where you're going with that in the leading of the question, and so if I were just clearer and not on the wavelength with you,
Okay.
I would really honestly kind of think like, well, no, I mean, it doesn't do anything negative. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think that it has to. Well, let me go with where I almost can't get out of it because I'm in sync with you, and yeah, it sets up unrealistic expectations, and it's going to create some negative vibe, and it's going to actually everything we just talked about blows up in the face of everything we just talked about. I'm not enough. I need to resolve to change something. I mean, I get it, but I also think we need to be aware of, like, I don't know, how do I want to put that? They're not bad. I mean, they're fun. They're not. Let's treat them what they are. It's an opportunity to reset. It's an opportunity to refresh. It can be a new start. We want to blow things up and create new things, right? Well, we can blow 21 up and create new things in 22. So I don't think they're really bad. I don't know that they're really bad nor good. I think it's maybe my landing spot is it's how we use them.
Yeah.
Is that a good landing spot?
I love that. Yeah, because that's something I do want to stress. Like, because you have made a resolution or a goal for the new year or things like that, it's not a negative thing to do that, right? Like, any
step forward is a great step, right?
Right. To think about things that you really want to commit to. I think that what we want to do, though, is understand what is the purpose of what we're trying to do, which we'll get to in a minute, and how does that connect to me on like in a values-based way. So trying to dig deeper than just saying something like, I want to lose weight this year. So instead of saying like, I want to lose weight this year, which is always like a goal for me, right? Like, it's always been a goal.
Right. Right.
But to think deeper than that, like, it's not about weight loss. It's about taking ownership of my healthful living so that I'm more active and can participate more with my children, and connecting to it in a purposeful way so that I'm able to have a different perspective going into like a eating situation, right? So when I'm mindfully eating later on today, I'm making choices not based on this concept of pure weight loss and numbers, but more so connecting to the value of being healthy for my kids and for myself and my family, and being able to connect to it in a genuine and authentic way.
Right.
Makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, it's what's your purpose?
Right.
We did a show with Craig. What's your passion? What's your purpose? What's your what's the other P? Principles. Yeah, principles, passions, and purpose. And we really talked a lot about that. Getting grounded and getting clear on what it is that you really want in your life.
Yeah. Why do you think that some resolutions fail for people?
They don't do with this part of what we're talking about.
Okay.
I do. I love the phrase that I had earlier. Neil, maybe help me out. What was it that I said? I don't know that you can make a change in your life unless you're really dealing with the mental health component. I really feel like they fail because we're not really getting at the core of what led us emotionally or psychologically to the positions that we're uncomfortable with or don't like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So why is it that our finances are in the toilet, which we make resolutions about? Why is it that we don't exercise? Why is it that we want to concentrate on our relationships this year and live our best lives and things like that. How did we get here?
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that becomes a really big essential question. How did we get here? Because everyone arrives where they are via a different bus, right? So, and I think I've brought this phrase up on the show before too, when COVID started and it was like, we're all in this together, we're all in the same storm.
Yeah,
so
where
on
did
and so
that
forth.
phrase go?
I don't know, but right, like we're in this together.
Yeah.
And now we're like, every man for themselves.
Terrible.
Like, sorry, but it's true.
It is.
Sad but true. But I think that the truth is that we can all be in the same storm, but we're all in different boats.
Yep.
And I think you have to recognize that, is that just because this person is having success doing X, Y, and Z in their life, like Dave Ramsey or something like that, or something like Financial Peace University and all of that stuff, just because they're having success with that does not mean that you will have the same success. And it's not because you are poor at the skills that it takes to do that, but it's because you don't have a similar connection to what the other individual has and why it works for them. Go ahead. What
I
were you
dig
gonna
what
say?
you're saying.
Please
And I
take it.
have an awesome metaphor.
Go for it.
And I think we have good time for it. Mm-hmm. Check this out, man. I wish I had the picture. I think my wife has the picture. I think she's the one that must have been her phone, because I don't think it's on my.
The wife that I'm going to marry, because she does a really good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
That
got
one.
an awesome Kasie compliment today. You're like, I want to marry you, and because you clean well and you're awesome here.
Also, is
You
it
support
weird
us.
that I told your wife I wanted to marry her?
I just
I'm
let it go.
So sorry.
I just let it go. It's okay.
Sometimes things just
just pop
yeah,
out.
they
Yeah.
do. They do.
So I had a chance. I took some really time off, and we went to the beach down in the Florida area. Emerald Isle, man, it's beautiful down there in Destin, by the way.
Yeah.
And I get real reflective. Anyway around New Year's
Every day.
and the holiday. Well, I mean, yeah, it's okay, fine,
Yeah.
fair criticism or fair compliment. Which one is that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I was at the beach.
Yeah.
And she loves silver dollars, sand dollars.
Yeah.
It's just really always been her thing and whatnot. And so I always kind of, strolling along the beach, I'm like, man, wouldn't that be awesome if I would find a full-on silver dollar that I could present to her. I've always wanted that experience. It never happened. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But maybe it doesn't need to, because what happened this time, I had a really couple of strong reflection points this trip, and this was one of them. So I was just getting pieces of sand dollars that were there. Am I saying that right, by the way? Sand dollars?
It's
That's
sand
right.
dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, sand
Silver dollars are actually a coin.
Yeah. So it's not silver. The
Like
sand
JFK's
dollars.
face on
And
it.
she had a piece, and she showed me when we were sitting at the beach there one day. I was like, okay, cool. So I'm walking along, and I thought, you know what? Let me get some pieces. I don't know why I was picking up these pieces, thinking like I'll just give her the biggest piece I could find or whatever. And so I just picked up little pieces of these sand dollars that were there. And, I had a handful of them, and I was getting my exercise and just walking the beach. And I came back and I sat down. I was like, huh. And actually, as I was walking, I had the thought, it's interesting, right? Like, I would always like to find a full sand dollar that's there, a full, fresh one that I find. But I only find these pieces. And the ways, it just occurred to me how broken up we get in life.
Yeah.
Right? That we all get broken in so many ways through the struggles and the challenges. And so here I was holding these pieces of sand dollars, just thinking about it as I was walking, like all of the brokenness that we have and the challenges and the scars. That's always a fun conversation. What scars do you have? And I could show you the 3 or 4 that I have, and we're all scarred up. And I sat down, and again, I started just looking at the pieces. What am I going to do with these? I started fitting them together on my leg.
Yeah.
Right? And I fit them together in such a way where it looked like a full sand dollar. And I just looked at my wife and I said, okay, can I give you one of these corny metaphors that I come up with sometimes? And she's like, she gave me that look. And she's like, sure, what do you got? And I was like, oh my God, she actually wants to listen to it. This is cool. So I told her this metaphor, and I asked her, I said, here, we're made up a full sand dollar of pieces. Mm-hmm. And here is an image and a picture of the pieces of a sand dollar, the brokenness that we all have, but that maybe you have a wholeness and don't really know what you're looking at. So I had her take a picture of it.
Yeah.
It just, I thought, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool.
I think that's beautiful, and I think that plays wonderfully in what we're talking about, is that when we're only looking at one piece, it looks super broken, right?
Right. You
But
should have
when
seen
we-
the bundles of them in my hand. It was like, geez.
Right. And we get caught up in like the fractures of it and how many pieces there are and the daunting task of trying to pick up all the pieces to stick with the metaphor, right?
Yeah.
But when you stand back and you look at the picture of a whole, it's a complete picture.
It was a cool circle.
Yeah, it's a complete circle, and a circle is never ending, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, so I love that metaphor because it makes a lot of sense. And so when we're talking about having resolutions and being resolute, and we're talking about that determination towards some type of purpose, what we want to think about is, this is one piece of who we are. And there are so many things that are right about us that expanding those pieces does nothing but help fulfill the full picture.
When you're doing
right?
resolutions, can we say if you're building on the things that you like more than being resolute to take apart or add things to you, you'll be more successful as well?
Absolutely.
Occurs to me, right?
Yeah, because the one reason that I think that resolutions, as they are so spoken to be, fail is because there's usually, from my perspective, a misalignment with the personal values that we have. And not even like the staunch values, but even like sitting down, having family dinners, things like that some people like to do that are traditionally part of their value system. When they want to implement like helpful eating and stuff, they start to fail because they're stepping away from that value system to like be so concerned and uptight into the piece of this is the diet, this is the plan, this is this, that they're missing that connection, that community and things like that, the relationship that they actually have with food in general and the relationship they have with the people that they celebrate around. And it's not like they can't incorporate both into your life, but I think it really becomes a situation of all or nothing. And when we talk about all or nothing in a therapy world, on the therapy couch, we call that a cognitive distortion or a distorted way of thinking or an out of order kind of way of thinking where you can't have both things.
Cognitive distortions suck.
Yeah.
Let me whittle this into,
Yeah.
what my clinical brain is doing?
Go ahead.
Is listening to you and whittling this into
And
like
being amazed.
well, and being amazed, but no, but being like, let's make this simple, right? Street speak, if you will.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Which one would be more successful in resolutions? Okay, I suck. Let me change something so I will be okay. Number one. Number two, I am good enough as I am. Let me add something or take something out to become even better, more to what I want. Right? Which one is going to be more successful? The first one, you're just going to fall on your face.
Right.
The second one, you're really grounded in who you are and you're adding something or taking something away. And again, that's not so bad. We're always being pruned
Right.
or growing in a different direction. That's a new leaf. Right?
Yeah. So sometimes to grow, you have to get rid of excess for sure. But I think also what I'm trying to say here too is that it doesn't have to be an or situation. A lot of these kind of resolutes or goals can be an and situation. Like I can still enjoy my life and be very cognizant of my financial situation and make a budget. I think what we do is we try to eliminate so many things, like out with the old and with the new, that we start to eliminate things that we like about our lives, like about ourselves, like about who we already are, because we feel exactly what you said, that we're not enough as is. And so instead of adding to or eliminating something, we're more likely to just throw it away and want to start over. And I think that's my point is I feel, and please hear this implicitly, there is nothing wrong with who you are as a person. There are things that have happened to you, but there is nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And so when we function from a growth mindset, what we're looking at is what has happened to you and how do we work within that structure to connect to your values and make real and lasting changes in your life. So I know that's a little deeper than just a New Year's resolution, but I hope by this time the audience has not expected anything less from me than a little bit deeper.
Absolutely. No, I think so.
So are there healthier ways to approach goal setting then, or whatever you want to call it? Resolutions, goal setting. I like goal setting, but...
Yeah, I like goal setting as well. I mean, I think that we're only going to be able to touch on this component and get to, like, you know, some of the things about, I think your next segment, how did you title it? Excuse me, self-improvement, loving language.
Yeah.
Because, boy, there's a lot to goal setting. I mean, it's something in my mastermind group in the business mindset that I have, trying to, to run and having founded Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates, right? That, we talk about, we work with. There's so much to goal setting. I don't even want to try to pretend like we're going to hit it as a little segment on this deal and do it justice, because this is something that's really important. I forget what you asked me at this point, honestly, but like I think of Craig, he's really awesome with this stuff. I mean, his goal setting stuff is way above average. And one of the things, for instance, he says is like, writing things down makes it like 70-80% more likely to actually happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a big deal, man. I mean, you want to have goals in your life in a direction. I believe very much still in a 1, 5, and 10-year plan. Most people nowadays will say 1, 3, and 5 years. I still say the 10-year because, you look at long distance. I don't know. Like I said, I forget what you actually originally asked me, but there's so much with goal setting. It's really important stuff.
Yeah, I was asking about like taking a healthier approach to it. So like, what do you think is a healthy approach to goal setting?
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond because there's so much. Valuing it, having them, and having the emotional permission to fail.
Ooh, that's
those
a big
are
one.
Things that come to my mind. Yeah, because there's a whole part with, you set goals. If you say you want to set them hard, like I said, I could go on and on and on and on with this. You want to set goals sometimes that you can't attain because then you get to moving in a strong direction. If you set goals that you're easily going to get, like geez, like it's nothing to it. You might set some small steps and then make them much more attainable and get some confidence and comfortable and keep going. And there's a lot. Like I said,
right.
I can go on and on.
Yeah. So one of the 7 healthy habits, right, is to start with the end in mind, right? And so sometimes I think if you work backwards, you do a really good job of setting short-term and long-term goals, right? So
see yourself as you will become, yeah.
Right. So this is where you are today, right? So inspecting yourself. So check in with who you are today. What are the things that you actually value about yourself, that you like about yourself, that speak to you as strengths within yourself? So knowing those components, right? So I think that's a really important step, is to be reflective in the present. This is what I like about myself. Not thinking through the things that I'm mourning about myself, the body I had when I was 16. Like, I'm not thinking through that, but this is where I'm at today. And then, like you said, future self, what do I want my life to look like? Because that's going to expose where you feel like the gaps are, right? So here I am today. What do I want life to look like? And sometimes we can put a timestamp on that. And sometimes we can't because we don't have control over that.
That's why I like a 1, 5, and 10-year plan. And I have a therapy activity I do with it. Piece of paper. The whole first side is 1 year from now. This is what I will accomplish. Turn the page over. 2/3 or 3/4 of the page is between now and 5 years from now. And you get that little third of the page on the back.
Yeah.
That's the 10-year plan. So much is changing in the next 10 years, but you really can set yourself into a direction, and then you funnel all the immediate pieces that you're concerned about. But it almost forces you in a way to change the way that we operate in such a fast-paced society and world that we just, we engage all the 1-year things, and then look at that way out there. That's ultimately where I want to go. It's valuable. It's super important, I feel like.
Yeah, and I even go smaller scale in my office sometimes about, in the next 30 days, what are we wanting to see in the next 30 days?
Yeah.
Because for most people that come to see me, 30 days is going to be 4 appointments, right?
Well, one day at a time.
One day at a time. Yeah. And so I think that that's the thing. And for some people, even some people listening today, it's going to be from now until the next hour from now, especially when we're in the crux of things like addiction and things like that, right? Like being sober lifestyle is a choice we make every minute. So I think that there are those things as well. But I think the first thing is to be reflective on where we are right now. So Chris is right. The title of the next segment that I wanted to jump into as we kind of get to a point where we're wrapping up this discussion about resolutions are some takeaways for our audience on things that you can actually do to kind of hone in on what you want your kind of New Year's resolution to be or your goal to be. And I really do want to title this Improved Self-Loving Language.
And I love the way that you're titling that because it does sum up a lot of what we're talking about. I mean, that's why it just struck me. And maybe I didn't say it totally well. And I think we were saying the same thing when I'm like, I suck, so let me add this to my life or take this away from my life is not going to be nearly as successful as a self-loving language, right? Like being able to say, I am enough. I like who I am grounded in that. Like I have accomplished Whitney Houston's goal, the greatest love of all.
Yeah.
Love myself without sounding too corny. And I'm going to do this differently or that differently. And I think that's where I diverged and we said it a little differently. I can add this or take this away in that space if I'm really engaging in, self-loving. It's huge.
Yeah, and back at the very beginning of the whole show, I said that one of my 2 words going into the New Year's authenticity, and the other one is enough, right? So we've hit enough pretty hard, but if I'm being my authentic self for you, Neil, the audience, I don't always love myself. I don't. But when I get to those places where I don't always love myself, I reflect back on there are so many people in my life that love me. Like my kids, for example, right? So number 1 is to have reflection of the self and have that be through the lens of ourselves, but to also recognize that through the lens of other people, we are enough. And I think not everybody always gets that, is that even on my worst days, my kids still feel I'm the best mom.
Yeah.
So one of my resolutions, or an example of making a self-loving language resolution, would be my goal is to continue being the best mom that I can be to my kids. Instead of saying, I'm going to be gentler, I'm going to be kinder, I'm going to be all of these things, I want to continue to be the best mom to my kids because my kids think I am the best mom.
So let's park out here.
Yeah, let's do that.
For just a second, right? Because I think, this is cool. This is a totally different part of resolutions. And you're right. I don't think people think about this a whole lot. I hope you stay tuned into the show and you're still here with us. Because this is, to me, totally fresh and different and nothing that I've ever heard of before. And I think is really cool. So thank you in advance, right? Like the idea that when we're doing hopefulness and change and being resolute on with ourselves, life planning, life goaling, all of that. Now I have heard it with goal setting.
Yeah.
Don't do this alone, right? What I heard you just say is interestingly, like there are times I don't love myself. There are times I hate myself. There are times I'm feeling full of shame and full of guilt and full of disgust and disdain with what I have done, right?
Yes.
And if we're not being honest with ourselves about that, we're failing ourselves because those are part of the human emotional experience. Well, that is also part of what happens with resolutions, with goal setting, with life progression, with growth. And what I heard you just say is choose your friends wisely, right? Like be around people that love you when you're not loving yourself, which is also a powerful piece of what religion can offer us for sure, stands to be right in front of us with that. Your creator, whatever religion or creed you may follow, loves you, right? So if you realize that you are created, that you are engaged, you're a person, a friend, a boss, an employee, a mom, a dad, a business partner. I mean, these are people that love and care about you when you're not loving yourself, and that enables you to go forward. So have a social support network, to use our clinical term. I think that's huge. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and one really cool skill that you can use kind of as a Socratic way, that's another like therapy thing, I know.
Definitely a big word.
Yeah, but as a way to kind of measure that for yourself is if you're having a low moment, okay? So you're in it to win it. You've got these goals set before you. You're doing well, and you come upon a low moment.
What was it we said? Kasie is the co-host with the most.
Yes, and you're having the low moment is like if you take just a moment and think about the person you trust the most to tell you the truth, okay? Yeah. And sometimes that's your life partner, sometimes that's not,
Sometimes
because
it's not.
Sometimes, they might be too harsh or too lenient, depending, right?
Right.
But really thinking through, like, who would really tell you the truth? And for me, like, that person would be my mom. Like, my mom is objective. She's going to tell me if I'm like, BSC, which is batshit crazy, or if I'm being like super reasonable, she'll tell me the truth. And so if you take a moment and think, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now about myself and where I'm at in my process. And instead of thinking about how you feel about it, think for just a moment, what would that person say to you about the feelings that you're having?
Nice.
And I think that is a good kind of almost existential way to measure up what you think and how you feel about yourself in the moment.
Which is awesome because, in the new year, we're depressed and we're grieving. We've lost a lot of people. You may have lost your mom. You may have lost your dad. But you can still, what I hear you saying, engage in that social support network when you're alone in your room at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. And so that's why I'm speaking to everyone today. I'm not speaking to those who are married. I'm not speaking to those who are, single and loving life or those with kids or without kids. I'm speaking to everyone because you can do that existential exercise and still really remain focused on your goals. So the second thing about improved self-loving language is to really increase quality time over quantities of time in what you do. So when we are truly loving ourselves, the quality of the time we spend on ourselves far outweighs the quantity of
Good,
time.
because life's busy.
Yeah, it's super
I got to
busy.
run around with the kids, and I got to do the thing for the church. I got to go around to the school and participate in
I've got to
community.
do the podcast.
I got to do podcasts and write a book, and
all the things. Like we fill our lives with a lot of things.
There is no time for grocery shopping, by the way, ever.
Right.
But I can still do what?
You can still implement quality of time instead of quantities of time.
Right.
And so the way you want to do that is a lot of what we talked about when we talked about mindfulness on the show and things like that is that instead of pushing self-love to early in the morning with our early morning workout, whoever those psychos are, or late in the evening.
Neil
over here. Yeah.
Way early.
But, or just in the evening, like, oh my God, I just need to get to 5:30 so I can have my time or whatever. Throughout the day, increase the quality of time you spend connecting to yourself. And so sometimes maybe it's, getting out your Bible and reading a verse or connecting to quotes or losing yourself in memes. Or for you, I know that you play your game in here.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen you several times.
Absolutely. It's absolutely crucial to turn my brain off. I was going to say that. You beat me to the punch. I mean, I've had a busy day. I've actually got some emotional things around my brain, or I had a tough session, or things are going on. I will make people wait in the lobby room. Isn't it terrible?
No,
I mean, it's 3-4 minutes maybe.
So
but
here's
I'm
the
going to
thing.
make you wait and get myself right, prepare for what I'm doing through the day multiple times through the day.
Right.
Just for me. Yeah.
And I would arguably say that is not terrible, because unless there is a major crisis in that lobby, which there isn't, if there is a major crisis in that lobby, we would attend to that for sure.
Right.
But the truth is it would be far more terrible for you to not be functioning at your best self and then go out there, get those people, bring them into your office and deliver therapy services if you are not feeling well within yourself, right? For me,
perfect little time of quality, or an example of quality time.
It is quality time. I like to catch a 15-minute power nap in my chair in there. Like I do that sometimes. Like if I have a little bit of leftover lunchtime or whatever, like I try to recharge for like 15 minutes. And sometimes I close my eyes and sometimes I just listen to songs or whatever the case may be. But I need that. Like that is that reset button.
Whoever created siestas, love you.
Yeah, they do.
Love you.
Yeah, and I love it. And so even on my kid's favorite movie, Cruella, the person takes a 9-minute power nap and puts 2 pieces of cucumber on her eyeballs.
Cruella, that's something new.
It's a great movie. If you've never seen it, I loved it. Have you seen it, Neil? It's very good. It's got Emma Stone in it. It's great. She's fantastic. Okay, reconnect to the parts of yourself that you truly enjoy and value about you. For example, being creative. So making the Steelers football team. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have my home church shirt on because I love home church where I go to church.
Yeah.
So this is not.
Is that the name of it?
It's called home church. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
It's where anybody can feel at home.
Interesting.
And also we believe that a large portion of church starts in your home. So anyway.
Interesting. Oh.
Lots of things there. It's in Denver, North Carolina on the campus of North Lincoln High School. Come check us out. But anyhow, so what this is that resolutions don't have to be these big things, right? Like it doesn't have to be lose 100 pounds in a year. It doesn't have to be something like that.
Make $100,000 more.
Make $100,000 more, hire the best clinician at your private practice so she can kill it for you, Chris. It doesn't have to be that. It literally can be something as simple as reconnecting to being creative. So, or reconnecting to the things that you actually enjoy about yourself, like reading. That's one of my biggest authentic things this year. I want to read for fun this year.
I have absolutely gotten through book 3 of Game of Thrones. I had put it off for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I was stubbornly not reading anything else. And I love it. And I may actually just go back into like book 4.
Yeah.
The reason being is it takes so long to read these books. They're so big, so thick, so descriptive.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? Hobbies. What I just thought and popped in to my brain is the cornerstone of mental health. You're talking about self-care. You're talking about the cornerstone. Get into the hobbies. Get back into the things that you enjoyed. Get into those things that you have actually quite possibly lost.
Yeah.
I'll highlight the lost decade that we talked about before. There are a lot of people listening to us right now that are in that lost decade time period of their life, and you've literally lost the things that, how did you put it, that you can reestablish with because you celebrate you.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what this is celebrating you. If you like hiking, go hiking, like take a walk, things like that. And if there are things that you can no longer do, trying to think creatively around how to get back that and recapture that essence or feeling. For example, like if you've had...
Well, I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
I can jump in because I'm thinking with my therapy, I can't tell you how many times in therapy with people, specifically, they have already kind of fallen into their own guide with that of wanting to get back into the art that they do.
Yeah.
Have you got a lady with clay pots? Wonderful to hear her talk about getting actually back into throwing a pot.
Yeah.
And there's another lady that I'm talking about that just loves drawing and creating, these funny as hell art pictures. It's so, reestablish you and your passions that you enjoy.
And it doesn't have to be something that becomes a business or something that you sell or anything like that. It can literally just be for the enjoyment of doing it. So sometimes it's like doodling or whittling, or I've had people that work with wood, that work with different materials, whatever the case may be. But it's that quality over quantity, and it's being creative, or even connecting to yourself like in a service to others capacity. Like one of my biggest areas that I love as far as quality is concerned is I volunteer as a guardian ad litem. And I love that because this is a volunteer capacity to represent the best interest of children that are involved in the DSS process, wherever they are in that process, and I represent their interests in court. And right now I have an infant baby on my caseload, and then I have another child that's 4 years old. And so that volunteerism of connecting to that purpose that's outside of my life brings a lot of joy and fulfillment to my life. And so I think sometimes connecting to something outside of ourselves can actually improve our own life because it helps enhance the qualities that we really value about who we are.
Yeah. Big brothers, little sisters.
Yeah, things like that.
big,
Yeah, anything
physical.
like that. Yeah, or just, watching your niece and nephew or, whoever as part of a service to other people. I think it can be really important. Setting realistic goals, just SMART, which means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I think we did a big thing with
Yep.
Craig
You
on
did.
SMART goals.
You did.
And that's part of what I was saying with goal setting.
Right.
Like, it's cool that you put this in the segment of loving yourself and improving your loving language to yourself with goal setting. I mean, that's what I was saying. There's so much with goal setting that we can do, tying them together like that and just creating, those SMART goals that are achievable. That's cool. It's cool connect.
Yeah. And so, and then the last one I have on here is that the assurance of the goals are aligned with your personal values. And if you're having a hard time with that, I think one of the best ways you can love yourself is to sit down with yourself, like we said before, and think through, what are my values? And if you feel like they're misaligned because we've stepped off in a way, or you've gotten involved in something that you're not proud of, or, you're feeling an immense amount of shame or guilt, then I think realigning those can simply be the best resolution that you can have with yourself this year.
I don't know why I'm got Craig on my brain so much, but Neil, help me out. You may know off the brain or check it real quick. How do we contact Craig Graves? Because I want to really refer our audience to that. This last part you're talking about again, right? Mm-hmm. Your principles, your purpose, your passions. Like, we just did an awesome show, and I've had a couple of people in my therapy office, being able to say, like, I really want to do that kind of work. I want to think about that, and I want to say, like, he can work with you anywhere in the nation or the world for that matter, and that is quintessentially like our whole conversation centers around getting really in touch with that part of you. And he said that he would meet with you for like a time or two for free. He absolutely just wants to meet with you for free and be able to kind of go through that work that he documented with us on our show. So again, I don't know why Craig's on my brain, but Neil, how do they get up with this guy?
It's wininyourmind.com.
Perfect.
And we have him on the other notes. So if you search the website, his website's always in there.
Yeah, he's all around.
Yeah.
He's all around. But he would love to connect with you for free and talk with you about that, because you're right, Kasie. I mean, being able to be on the ground floor of yourself, really looking at, what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
What are my principles in life that I really want to follow? What is my purpose? And that will set up what my direction is. People hear this on my voice. I had a friend of mine refer somebody in their family to listening to the substance abuse, the sex addiction topic that I did. And it was funny, Kasie, because, and I screw a lot of things up, and I know it's going to sound a little arrogant when I go through this, but whatever. She was like, "Oh, wow, he's really excited about sex addictions and stuff." And I got to thinking about it like, well, not any more than the other topics that we talk about.
Yeah.
But I think she must have probably just listened to that show, but she heard my passion with it. Like, I hope genuinely what comes through a therapist's eyes is a genuine, passionate attitude about the thing that we're talking about on that given day.
Yeah.
That's a big point.
Yeah. And so that's why I was glad to do this show today, because one of the biggest things that I'm the most passionate about when it comes to understanding the human emotional experience is that before you can make a commitment to do anything else, you have to commit to yourself. And that's through self-love. That's through therapy, maybe. That's through getting connected spiritually. That's through, getting connected with another person, because we've been in this pandemic for 2 years and, different things are coming out. It's not slowing down, whatever the case may be. And wherever you are right now in your walk and in your journey in life, before you can commit to anything else, you have to commit to yourself, your health, and your well-being. And whatever that means to you, however that looks, however small or however big that is, it's one of the most important things you'll ever do for yourself, is to commit to you and to know that you are enough. You're enough.
I think we've developed a look into the camera, guys, in the summary of our show. I think Kasie just nailed it. I'll just leave it at that. We will see you guys next week. Here's to 2022. Take care, y'all.